Good morning, everyone. It's Craig here from Target Cloud, and welcome to our 1-hour workout this Tuesday morning. We'll be getting started shortly. We're just waiting for the attendees to join the webinar, and then we'll crack on with our warm-up. Hi, and good morning, everyone, and welcome to today's 1-hour workout on our new feature start. So we'll be covering some new features in Zoho CRM over the coming weeks. And today we're covering wizards. So prepare yourselves. We'll be starting shortly, and we'll be getting warmed up with our polls. We're just going to give it a couple more minutes just to wait for a couple more attendees. Many thanks. Okay, welcome to our 1-hour workout today. Let's get started. And today we are covering a new feature which was introduced last year. And it's all about wizards. So we're going to talk about that in a second, and how it might help you in your business, and how it might help you make the CRM even easier to use. But first of all, let's start with our polls and get ourselves warmed up for this workout this morning. And let's start with the have you attended previously. So let me just have a look and see how many newcomers we have today, or if everyone's a regular on our 1-hour workouts. Let's see what happens here. So the votes start coming in. And today it looks like we have regulars, which is great stuff. Let's see if we got any new people today. Oh no, these are all seasoned professionals for our 1-hour workout today, so that's great. You know what to expect. And let's go on to just how long you've been using Zoho CRM. So you know these questions by now. Let's just get a gauge for the level of use. So let's see. Now we've got some 3 months. So newcomers, and some at 6 to 12 months. So a bit of a spread. Let's see if we've got any long-term use. I don't think we have. I think it's 3 to 12 months. So that's pretty cool. You'll be ready to adopt these new technologies. And let's just have a look expertise. So today is really a bit of a mix between admin and user. So we'll be doing some configuration in the back end of Zoho CRM. So this one's really for those who might be configuring. But for the users out there, it's something to take to your teams and say, that this is something that we would like and that we would think would improve our experience with Zoho CRM, and that's what this is all about. So it's for admin and users. But let's take a look. So okay, we've got an average of around about 2.3 today. So this will improve your skills as always with these 1-hour workouts. And I just want to ask a couple of questions about wizards. I think I know the answer on this. But let's just have a look. So have you implemented them yet? Have you had a look? Did you even know they existed? And let's just gauge where we're at with your use of wizards in Zoho CRM. Okie doke. So just going to wait for a couple more votes on that one. Okay, super stuff. Okay, thanks very much. So we're at the same level. So to give you an overview on wizards across all of our clients, we haven't deployed wizards, and that's not because we haven't wanted to. It's simply because it's so new, and we're still at the evaluation stage ourselves. So this is all part of rolling out the new features that are available to you as clients, and getting a joint understanding as to how we can use them and how we can support them, of course. So that's what this 1-hour workout is about today. And so finally, let's just have a look at what your main considerations are for using wizards. So these ones really are the benefits. It's going to make it easier for users to complete the records, complete them in a fixed sequence, saving records before submitting them. You may have several steps required to complete a record, and then you're unsure. So yeah, we might be starting afresh with this and not even understanding what wizards are, which is perfectly fine, because that's again what these sessions are about. Okay, great stuff. So this really is fresh, brand new territory for us today, which is fantastic. And again, I thank you all for taking the time out this morning to attend our 1-hour workout. So let's get started in a second. Just bear with me shortly. Okay, so as normal, let's just step through what we have today. So on our workout, you've got myself, Craig, doing the presentation today, and Duncan's in the background on the Q&A, so he'll be there to collect your questions, which we can either take away, or if we've got some time at the end, we can share and demo the questions that you may have arising from today's workout. So thanks again for Duncan for managing that in the back end. And the plan this morning, so we've done our 1-up polls. I'm just going to talk a little bit about why we would consider implementing wizards in our CRM. We're then going to step through creating a wizard, which is going to be fairly straightforward, but it should give us some indication as to how to do that, and then you can go away and actually do this for yourselves straight away. And then a new little feature in true YouTube style. We do provide these workouts for free, so I'm taking the opportunity to tell you about something that's coming up from Target Cloud in the next few weeks, which is a very exciting development for us, and something that you may find beneficial. And then we're going to use our wizard and look at the user side. So we're going to do the admin side first, creating it, and then the user side actually using it. And then a cool down Q&A. We'll try and, again, address any questions that have come up throughout the interactive session. Or Duncan will take them away and come up with the answers for you. Okay, so the first bit is why wizards. So let me go into our demo training CRM. And what I've done for the purposes of this demonstration is I've created a custom module called applications. And we see this for our recruitment clients, is they will have an applications module that typically will be a really cumbersome form. So it'll contain many sections, lots of detail, and take time to complete. And so this seems like the prime opportunity for the idea of creating a wizard. I think also other examples of it might be things like proposals, financial information, or opportunity capture forms that have a whole bunch of details in them. It might be for bookings, for travel agencies, anywhere where you're capturing more than, sort of 10, 15 fields in one go, then it's possibly worth considering a wizard. So let's take a look at what I mean by that. So if we go into our applications module, our brand new custom module, and click on create application, it's going to take me into my example wizard. And we go on to create application. It's going to bring up our standard layout. And what I've done with this is I've sectioned it. So whenever we create a module or we design a CRM, we always promote the use of sections to break down the form into more readable format. So this one, you can see we have our name details and we've got the 5 fields, email details, 3 fields, phone details, 3 fields, address, education, previous role, financial details, reference details, availability, and some uploads and some system information. So you can see already that although this isn't a particularly long form, you get the idea. This is a cumbersome form, and in order to submit the record, the user would need to ensure that they completed the mandatory fields and then just carry on scrolling down until the point at which that record is ready to submit or save. So it all has to be done at once, and that's not always feasible. If we're dealing with an application, for instance, in our recruitment example, you may know, for instance, the level of education at the start, but you might not necessarily have the information for their references. So where we've got reference details, the candidate may have to go and retrieve those, and then you have to come back to it later before submitting it. So the idea of wizards is that it will introduce an easier way to complete that form. That's the first number one goal. So we're going to show you how to do that. And the second goal is the ability to save it at any point without submitting the records, or save it as a draft. So it makes it easier for the user, but it also gives you that ability to come back and add more detail later before submitting the record. So let's have a look at what we can do with this form now. So you've seen our application form and the kind of problem that we have, or the problem that we've created, and let's go away and create our first wizard. So to do that, we're going to head to the setup, and in our customization section, you'll see the new feature here, wizards. And as always in the setup, you can search for it if you can't quite see it, and that will bring up your wizard screen. Same principle if we just go via this route. And you can see here I've created these 2 wizards here. In this screen again, once you've grown your wizards, you'll be able to search in here, and that will filter it down to the wizards that you can see. And also you've got your filter here, just like you have in workflows, where if we want to see our lead wizards, then we'll be able to filter it by leads and our applications. Interestingly enough, you can create wizards for these modules. So leads, contacts, accounts, and deals. So the 4 core modules that you would see in pretty much every CRM. And then our custom modules, and that's why applications has appeared. So do be aware, if you want it in some of the, particularly like the tasks modules, you're not going to be able to create a wizard. I mean, it would be unlikely in tasks anyway, because the forms are usually pretty simple and straightforward to complete. So it is there for the primary modules and any custom modules. Also across here, you've got the permission sets and the layouts. So we've not really talked about layouts on our 1-hour workouts, but if you have different form layouts, then you can apply those to the wizards, and also your permission sets. So a wizard may only be made available to certain profiles within the CRM. And then of course we can enable and switch off these as we wish. Let's reset that to all modules. So they're the ones that I've currently created, but we're going to create a brand new one. So let's go ahead and do that, and go with our create wizard. Funnily enough, straight away. So let's call this one our application wizard, and the module we're going to choose is applications. And the layouts, when it says select layouts, we've only got 1 layout, and that's a standard one. But if we did have more layouts, then we'd be able to select those at this point. And then click on next, and that will bring up this really neat interface. So Zoho, over the last couple of years, has been really working on their user interface. And whenever a new feature is introduced, you can see the difference between old kind of workflow creation, for instance, and now this kind of new method of drag and drop and a simplified interface for the administrator. Wizards really does take advantage of this. So up on the top screen now, we've got the module that we're working in, the layout that we're working in, the title of the wizard, which can be renamed, the permission set. So we're going to apply this one to both our permissions, our profiles, and then the save option here. So let's get started and create our first simple wizard. And we're going to just do a kind of step through each screen. So it tells you straight away, double click to create your first screen, and that will bring up this interface. Now on here, again, this is very easy to use. We're going to create our first screen, which is going to be the name details. So we call this name, and this appears in the wizard on a top navigation banner. So you'll see that when we try it. And then this particular segment title, again, we're just going to repeat the name details. And then here now on the left-hand side, you'll see, just like the module builder, you'll see all of the fields that are available within that module. And at the top part, you'll see the mandatory fields. So these 6 fields here, 7 fields, I've made mandatory in the custom module just to show that we need to complete these at some point within the wizard. And we won't be able to save the record until these fields are completed. So very, very easy to do, first of all, is it's just a simple drag and drop. But if you can't find the field that you're particularly looking for, then again, the search is going to bring up those details. If we want name details, then we can bring up the name fields. So let's do that. We're going to go name and then just drag and drop. And you can see the mandatory marker on first and last name. And then I think I've got some other fields to make this form extra long for demonstration purposes. So we've got a suffix, a prefix, and a middle name. So that's going to be our first screen, is just the name details. And then we need to tell the wizard where it needs to go next in order to carry on this form. And so to do that, we're going to use add button. So we click on add button. And I'm going to show you the different button actions in a second when we've created this. But our next part of the form is going to be address. So we call the button name the address. And then this option here is going to link to a screen. And then we see this user interface kicking in here. We just click and that's going to create our screen too. And what I would normally do now is start to chop and change this a little. So now that we've got screen 2, let's open up this one. And we're going to call this one our address, and the segment title address. I'm just going to repeat that again. And then we can bring in address details. So street address, town, city, and postcode. And then I think I've got county and country. So street, town, county, country, postcode with 3 mandatory fields. So very, very easy to do. And now let's click on our button. And again, we're going to call this one email. And we're going to link to a screen and repeat the process. So this one's called our emails. And again here. And this time we can bring in our email field. So we've got the email, secondary email, email opt-out. Let's use a search facility. So here, this email. And that's cool. I think it's those 3 fields that I've got. So the next one I want to do is going to be our education. Let's just call it education. And again, that's going to link to a screen. So it creates a new screen for us. And let's call this one education. And then in here, we can go with our school. Let's just put this one in here, education, school, college attended, date of qualification, some other information, level of education. So you can see we're splitting down these fields. I think that's them ones. And then just one more example before we try this out. We'll go with experience, link to a screen. And then experience. So you can see how easy these are to put together with the drag and drop. It just takes some time to get it all looking nice. So let's go with previous role title. leaving date, reason for leaving. I think that's what I included. Oh, I think I put number of jobs before this one. Why that'd be relevant, I'm not sure. I'm not an expert in these things. Okay, so what we're going to do now is we're going to pretend that that's the end of this wizard so we can test it. Now, to end the wizard, we have to have a save option. If we don't have a save option, it's not going to like it. So let's try and show that. So if I click on done here, then this is going to be the end of the wizard. So it's going to take us through from name to address to email to education to experience and then to this experience screen. Now, if I try and save this wizard, it's going to pop up and it's going to say 2 errors. So the first one is no option to save. So experience ends the path without a save button. And the next one says save button. So configure at least one save button. So what it's saying is that this wizard, we can't exit it. It's just not going to work. So what we're going to do is we're going to add in the save button in this experience screen. So the button to end it can be something like done or submit. And we're going to go with save. And instead of it linking to a screen, we can now click on use this button to save the record and click on done. So when we try and save the wizard this time, it's going to successfully save it because it's got the save option in it. So let's go and give that a try and see what happens. Again, I like to build things by trial and error. Build things first and then tweak it as you go. Okay, let's take a look. So applications. And when we create an application this time, it's going to drop into the layout that I specified. So let me show you that, and then I'll show you how we change that. So here now, create application has dropped into application P1HW, so that's my practice one, application standard. What we want is this one, the application wizard standard. They look very similar, but if you remember our naming conventions, this is the one that we've just created. So we could just swap to that one straight away, or we can set it as default. So let me show you how that works. If I go to the modules and fields, and we go to our applications and layout, then here you see layout and type assignment. Now this is quite a useful feature because if you've got a set of profiles, in our demo account we just have administrator and standard, but you'll be able to see which layout you want them to go into when they start. So you can see administrator here, the layout type is application pre-1 hour workout, but we're going to change it to application wizard, the one we've just created, and the same for our standard users. So they're now going to, whenever they have a default, it's going to be for the application wizard. So now when we go back to our applications and we create a new one, then it's going to go into our one we've created. So things to note on here, you can see that that's the segment name, and that's the screen name, and that's the segment name that we created earlier. So if you got a naming convention for these, then that's the thing to be aware of. So let's go through this. So I don't know middle name, but we'll go with sir on the prefix, maybe one day. So that's our first screen filled out, and as normal, if we didn't complete our mandatory fields and we clicked on the next section, so here's our button we created to move on to address, it would still do the validation. So let's add in our actual last name and click on address, and it will take us to the next screen. So there's no scroll in here, this is all one screen. So street address, and I don't know why I've chosen Leeds, but I did. Okay, and then now we can see the email button, so we're going to go email. And secondary email and email opt-out, so your normal fields are contained in there. And then education. And the date field. I would suspect it's something like that. And other, we've got a multi-line field. Okay, so we've got the application being completed, and then experience, previous role, or Faulty Towers to Stressful. I should have stuck with a wizard theme really, rather than John Cleese framework. So there we go. And now we've got the option to save. So we're going to save this record, and this will commit it as normal to the application module. So here we've now got our record we just created as normal in the CRM. But we may not have all the details initially. So one of the advantages of wizards, apart from breaking down the form into manageable components, is that we're now able to go in and save it as a draft. So we might not have all that information initially. So let's try and work that out as well before we go in and amend this wizard. Just bear with me a second while I take a drink. Okay, so this time we don't have all the information to hand. So let's create application. And this time we'll do it for another legend. And he'll definitely be a sir at some point. So we've entered this detail. We know this detail. We're going to click on the address, and let's put in some details here. So we might know these. And we move on to email. And our education. And it's at this point that we need to go and research this. We don't know what the level of education is for Michael in this instance. So we're going to save this record as a draft. So we're now able to save it as a draft. And if we go to our application module, then it's not yet committed to the database. It's simply stored in what we call drafts. Now, this is really useful if you've got those long forms and you don't want to commit it to the database, but you do need to enter some information and then come back to it and save it later. How do we retrieve those? Well, it's up here in our actions. We've got a section called drafts. So we can now click in drafts, and you can see the one that I played with before, the wizard, the old completed by the practice wizard, and also the new one here, application wizard, with this here. So what we have now is the ability to go in and reconfigure or restart this record. Now, what will happen is you may have several records in here. So we've only got 2, but you may have several records, and you want to search by certain criteria. So let's say, for instance, we only want to search by the email address. And as we do with our workflows and anything else, custom views and everything that we're currently used to using in CRM, we can go email, and then our operators, so contains mp.fake, and click on search, and that will filter the records down. So if you can imagine, if we've got 100 records and we only want to, find the people who were created today or created last week or whatever the criteria is, we can use the standard Zoho CRM criteria to find the records that we want to go in and re-edit. We've also got the ability, if I take off this criteria, we've also got the ability to do a mass delete. So we can go in, and if we effectively don't want to edit those drafts anymore, then we can just select them all and hit on mass delete. So let's open up that record, and it will take us right back to where we started. So you can see we're stepping through these segments now, and this time we can go with completing Michael's record. And he was 1965. And he was also there. And we'll click on the final one, the experience. And save the record. And that will commit the record to the database. So now we've got Michael and John completed in there, and they've both stepped through the wizard. Okay, so that's the first example of it. And what we're going to do now is we're going to just go and tweak our wizard so that we can see a little bit more about it. So let's go in there and go back to our wizards. And we're going to do a little bit more fancy things now. So we can go back to our application wizard, and you can see our step through there is the one that we've just tried to do. So let's go and add some more details in now. So let's add in a new screen. Last time we went from this screen, but what you can actually do, you see what I just did then, is you can just double click. Let's delete that one. So again, You can remove the screen by clicking on the three dots and delete the screen. But to create a new screen, you might not know where that flow is going yet. So let's create a new one. And this time we're going to call this one references. And we're going to bring in the reference information or the reference field. So we've got reference name, reference email, and reference phone. And again, we'll call this one references. And then also what we're going to do in here is we're going to use this element here called components. And interestingly, you've got two types of components. We've got a text edition and widget. So I'm going to add in some text. And in here, you can provide some guidance information, which you couldn't previously have in the standard form writer, but you can have in Wizards. And it's something that often gets requested. So this is a really useful feature. So please provide a primary reference from your work environment. We may contact them to discuss your role. So we've now added some simple text, and we've got the ability to drag and drop that text to where we want it to appear in the form. And then as normal, we can add a button, and this one, let's go, we're going to create a save button here. So this again will end the wizard. So now we've got our reference one, but it's standalone. It's not really linked to anything at the moment. You can see that because the arrows, again, this nice user interface that we've got. So what I'd like to do is we're going to link it from somewhere else. So let's link it from our education. So double click on the education one. And in here, we're going to add in another button. And this one's going to link to a screen. And then we can click and drag it to that screen. So let's now move this out here. And this button needs to be renamed. So you can click on the button, click here. And let's call this add reference. And done. So now we've not just doing a sequential loop, we've actually got it escaping out of education and adding the reference. Let's save the wizard and just see that in action. So when we create an application this time, we're up to Graham, I think. And go to address. I'm going to show you an easier way to enter addresses on our ad break. C5, click on email. And education. And this time on the education, we've now got that additional option. So we've got experience and add reference. So we could complete the level of education here again. Army school. And then now we click on add reference, and that will take us to our reference screen where we've got the save option. So in there now we can add in our reference. And at any point, if we decide that we've forgotten something, we can use the navigation of the form titles to go back. So we might think, oh, actually, I need to add in the date of qualification, because that's what we're going to be talking about with the references. So you can you can navigate your way around using these as well. So it's not so restrictive with the buttons. So when we've added the references, you can see as well, we've got the textual help here. So please provide a primary reference. Which is a major addition. This is something that is worth deploying Wizards for alone, is just the ability to add text to the form completion. And then we're going to click on save, and that's going to commit our record as normal. Okay. So before I move on to some of the other added features on the Wizards side, I just want to take a short break. I'm just going to show you a simpler way of adding addresses. And the reason I'm bringing this in is this is something that Target Cloud is going to be rolling out to all of our clients. And as our 1 hour workout attendees, you're going to get a sneak preview. So let me click on the leads module. And what I'm going to show you is something that you're probably familiar with if you use an internet site for online ordering and you go in to add your address. Good online ordering sites won't require you to add your address details each time, so 5, 6 fields each time. They'll allow you to do an address lookup. And this is something that we've integrated into Zoho CRM, and something that we're going to be rolling out to the marketplace, but it's not quite there yet, but this is a sneak preview. So if I click on Create Lead, and let's go to our standard layout, then you'll see here the street information, where normally you would have to go through and enter the details, which can be time consuming and also inaccurate as well. But instead, what we've done is we've created a custom button with a widget, which allows you to do address lookup using autocomplete, which is a really neat feature. So if I start typing in the address, it will bring up the options, and then I can add more details to it, and it will eventually bring up the address that I'm looking for. When I pick the address, it will map it to the fields that we want it mapped to. So in Leads, it's just to these 5 normal fields. It can be more if there's more fields, such as more address lines, etc. And then click on Select Address, and that will populate the address information. This information is taken directly from what's called a postcode address file, or a post office address file. So it's completely accurate at all times, which is a really good addition if you want to keep your address data up to date. For instance, if you're shipping goods, or you simply just want to keep your data in a really good format, then this is a really neat tool to have. So it's a sneak peek, bit of an ad break really, because it's a service that we'll be launching over the coming weeks, but it's one that we're really excited about, and hopefully our clients will find really useful. Okay, we just got some, I'm just going to nip to the Q&A. Okay, so question from Alistair. Are saved work in progress records within the wizard visible to other users or only to the creator? So that will be down to profile. So if the record is going to be available to them in the completed state, then it will also be available to them in the work in progress state. So it's going to be down to the owner and the profile and the permissions that you set. So it's going to be no different for wizards as it is for committed records. Okay, so hopefully that answers your question. Okay, let's go and revise our wizard a little. So back into wizards, and I'm just going to cover some of the more detailed features that are available in here. So application wizard. So this time, let's just work on some of the customization. So where we've got this add reference field, we want to kind of make this a little bit different. So here on the education, we've got the ability to customize these buttons as well. So add references. You can see here we've got style and actions. So the first thing I'm going to consider is style. And we've got the ability to change it to a curved or rounded button and change the color. So if you have a facility where you've got different elements, such as this reference element, then now when we add the button, let's save the wizard. I'm going to have to step through again to demo this, but I think you get the idea. Let's just do this very quickly. Address. Get used to this form now. And education, and now you can see the button feature is now blue for this or red circular for this, so it's very prominent, and we can also have the different buttons link into different places. So now we go to add reference, it's going to be very clear. So that can be a useful feature. I'm just going to show that in a little bit more detail with the other options. So we can add button, style, orange and curved. So you really get the idea. We could be very creative here if we wanted to. Rounded and grey, and so on. So yeah, I mean, it's a level of customization that we've not seen in Zoho before, which is really useful. Okay, so let's click on that one, and now let's talk about the actions. So in our email section, what we can also do is add some simple workflow within this as well. So for the buttons, we can click on add a button, and at this point we can do something like send confirmation. So we've now got an action button that's been very easy to create. We'll change the style, and we're going to change this to a rounded style and a big red. So it's kind of send confirmation is a big red button. And at this point, we can click on Actions, and you'll notice that we get our standard kind of workflow actions here. Email notifications to send out an email, webhooks to integrate to some third-party software or to another cloud service, and then our custom actions to do something that is a custom action. So run a function or create a record or move data from one place to the other, pretty much anything that we can commit with code. I'm going to keep it simple. We're going to do an email notification. And at this point, I could create an email notification, which I know Dunk's covered in other webinars, but we're just going to use our test one, which asks who your favorite wizard is. But we can associate this test email notification here and click on done. So now under our emails one, we've got the send confirmation. And also what I want to test with this is also a piece of workflow. So let's click on send confirmation. Sorry, not workflow, a little bit of criteria. And you can see here we've got the visibility. So this button is currently always going to be visible because it's on always show. But we can click on hide button and then set some criteria to hide this button. So let's choose the criteria, and we're going to choose the email field. And let's do contains. We could do is not empty, but that's too obvious. We're going to do contains mp.fake. So it'll only appear if the email address contains mp.fake, and click on save. And that criteria will be there. Again, you can add more criteria by clicking on the add button, just like you can with workflows or forms or custom views. So the interface is kind of the same for that. Let's click on done, and we're going to save it. And our invalid ones, so button 3 is invalid. It should have a save action. Button 4 is invalid. We've got lots of errors now because I've made it overcomplicated. I expected that. So button 3, that's sorry, these are the example ones that I created. So let's just get rid of those. I think I may still have an error. Let's have a look. Yeah. So the send confirmation button should either have a save action or be linked to another screen. So this send confirmation one, the action goes after it's been linked to another screen. So we'll do save instead. So send confirmation is going to send off this test, but we do need a next action. So it's either going to be saved or it's going to link off to another screen. So we're just going to keep it simple and save the record. So now when we run our applications and create a new one, so address, and now our email screen. So this time, the send confirmation, I'm not sure that should appear actually. Carry mp.fake. I'm going to do a different one for when it appears, just to demonstrate that. But now when we do send confirmation, that's going to save it and also send that email template off to Terry at mp.fake, as you can see here with the workflow. So who is your favorite wizard? Okay, so it's initiated the workflow from the wizard. So let me just show you the what I was trying to show you, but in a more simplistic format. So application wizard, and in our name one, the very first one, then we don't have to step through again. We're going to add in a button, and we're going to call this one middle name added, just to demonstrate it. And again, we'll make it simple by using the button to save the record. But this time we're going to hide the button unless middle name is not empty. So the criteria is much simpler. And click on done. So we can see middle name added. Save the wizard. And now let's just test that from the first screen. Wrong way around. We all make mistakes. They're part of the 1 hour workout is that we make simple mistakes. So this one you'll have noticed, because you're all very awesome at this now, is that I did that the other way around. So middle name is empty. And save the wizard. And create. And now you can see that that button isn't visible until we start to populate this, and then it will become visible, middle name added. Okay, so the final section I just want to clarify for you is the layout bit. So we go to applications and layout, and then in here you can see the layout and type assignment. So I covered this at the start, but it's just to re-emphasize it. So who are the wizards being made available to? So this is where you define that. So the administrator has got standard layout and using application wizard, and the standard profile has got standard layout and also using our application wizard. So you can assign the profiles and then assign which wizard and which layout they're going to be using from the outset on as default. Okay, so that should help with that. And I think that just about covers everything that we have for wizards. So hopefully that's really helped you and sown the seeds of some ideas as to what you might do with your own CRM. Of course, we're always here to help, and Duncan's there to support you in getting these developed. We think they're a really cool feature, and certainly something that's overdue in introducing to our clients. So if you do have any ideas or want to do anything with them, then do come forward. Okay, we have another question from Alistair. So all the buttons added so far have been forward, progress, or actions. Okay. Is there an easy way to create a back button or a navigation panel to return to a previous stage? So yeah, in the when you create the actual screen, so let's go to create application. This here is the navigation. So let's do this and click on address. So you can see now we've got name and address. They're the segment titles. So we can go back to name and add that one, and then click again on address. So we click address and start to add this detail, and then email, add the email details. And then we might think, oh, actually, we now know the address bit, so we can click back on address and then click back to emails. So your navigation appears here, basically, education. And to show you where that is in the setup, let's save that one as a draft, come back to it later. So in the setup, when you set up your screens, that navigation section is here. So that screen there, name, that's the bit that appears in the navigation. Emails here, that section there. And also, interestingly enough, as well, if you click here, you can make this as the home screen. So whenever you come back to home, it'll take you to experience, and that's where the navigation will start, and so on. So I'll not fiddle with the design in this case, but you can set your home screen basically there. So how can you progress between stages without completing a compulsory field? Well, you can't. The same process applies as it would in committed a record. If you've got a mandatory field, then you need to complete that mandatory field. But I just want to try something. Let's see if we can. Sorry, let's exit that and go back to our applications. So I think what you're asking is if we want to progress from this screen to address, we can't, because it's going to do the validation on the mandatory. But I just wanted to try this. Yeah. So if you've progressed, that's fine. You can navigate backwards, but we can't commit this section of the form. You click on here until we've completed those mandatory fields. So whilst you can't progress, you can kind of go backwards, I suppose. We can save it as a draft without completing the mandatory fields, but you can't commit the record because it's a mandatory field. So it's doing that validation as it would normally if it wasn't a wizard. But good question. Okay, super stuff. So let's now head back. So what have we covered today? Well, we all got warmed up with our polls. Thank you for those. Hopefully an understanding as to why we might need wizards and why they might be useful in our CRM. We've created our first one. So hopefully that's given you the confidence to go away as administrators and have a play with them. We snuck in our ad break for the address lookup tool, which is coming soon. And then we've been able to use the wizard plenty. So we've stepped through and actually shown you what it looks like to the users. And for our users on the webinar, obviously you can go back to your administrators and say that this is something you think would be really cool. And we'll stay on board for another few minutes to see if anybody else has any burning questions. Let's have a look at our upcoming 1 hour workout. So over the next few weeks, we're going to be covering importing data. That's something that our clients ask us to do a lot. So we want to impart some of that knowledge to you as users and administrators on importing data. We'll be then covering another admin session on Blueprint, which is a fairly complex topic, but it's also incredibly useful if implemented correctly. Then the second of our new feature overviews, so segmentation was introduced last year to measure returns based on segments, and that's a really neat feature that's coming up. GDPR, we again get asked a lot how to implement it, and it's still a pressing topic, so we want to cover that off for you. Lead scoring, which is useful again, but underused. And then we have a Zoho's desk session coming up in the next few weeks. So hopefully a really good series of 1 hour workouts. We're always happy to take requests as well. So, if you want something covered, then let us know and we'll start to build it into the agenda for 2021. So thank you for attending today. As always, you can send us your requests as part of this follow-up to support@targetcloud.co.uk, where we'll pick those up. You can always schedule a one-to-one session to go over things in more detail with Duncan. We always love our reviews, so if you want to post a review based on this or your experience with Target Cloud, then please do so. And a simple follow on LinkedIn really helps us. So thank you very much indeed for attending again. I hope you've enjoyed this 1 hour workout. We always enjoy delivering them. Enjoy the rest of your day, and thanks again for attending. Cheers. Bye-bye.